Hello, everyone. Welcome back. Can I see a show of hands who pet a therapy dog? That makes me smile. And the 50 of us that were at forest bathing, show of hands. It's nice to take a moment to breathe, isn't it? This next panel is near and dear to my heart. Helping people help themselves. How do we reach the people who are most in need of help and those who love them? In 70 to 80% of cases, when there's a mass shooting, someone knew something before the attack occurred. More often than not, they don't say anything because they don't always know where to go for help, and they're concerned about getting people they love in trouble. This panel explores how do you reach the individuals in crisis and their loved ones, and just as importantly, once you reach them, how do you help them connect with resources and services that can provide them the support they need? It is my great pleasure to reintroduce Eradicate Hate's Director of Programs and Evaluation, Rachel Hunkler, and her panel, Helping People Help Themselves.
Good morning. Can everyone hear me? Yes, my mic is working this morning. That's great. Good morning, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us today for our panel on helping people to help themselves. As you'll hear throughout today, today's theme is all about success stories, telling about how we can prevent people from turning to hate-fueled violence. But it doesn't actually work unless we are reaching the people most at need. As Brett mentioned, both the people who are at risk of perpetrating acts of hate-based violence and their loved ones, their family and friends, who are most likely to notice any of those behavioral indicators that someone might be needing extra support. If any of you were at our Summit Responds plenary yesterday, you may have heard me mention, but this is a really important topic for us at the Eradicate Hate Global Summit. We run 2 year-round programs focused exclusively on this. One is our Upend Hate campaign for young people ages 12 to 22, and our other is the Screen Hate campaign, which is for parents and concerned adults. And this morning you're going to hear from the 3 esteemed individuals on this stage about the different programs and campaigns they are running to help reach people in need of help. So I'm delighted to be joined by the 3 people on the stage next to me. First is Caitlin Tierney, the CEO and co-founder of Diverting Hate. Next is Alexander Sievers, the director of the International Network of Disengagement and Exit, or INDEX, which is a great acronym, at the Violence Prevention Network. And then third is Dr. Shannon Poe, the director of programming and services at Life After Hate. So we're going to start with a question for each of the panelists to please just give a brief introduction of yourselves and your organization. Tell us more about who you are and what your organization does to reach those looking for help, either for themselves or for someone in their lives. So Caitlin, let's start with you.
All right, good morning, everyone. It's a pleasure to be here, share the stage with you all. It's also very inspiring to be here on the day of the Student Summit. Diverting Hate was once a student project. We came from the Invent to Prevent competition about 2 years ago now, and then really launched our work with a CP3 grant in FY 2022. So many familiar faces at the summit today. Diverting Hate is committed to meeting men at a critical crossroads, stepping in before engaging with the manosphere, a harmful, misogynistic network of influencers that perpetuate and proliferate harmful conspiratorial theories. and can escalate into extremist behavior. Our mission is to identify and intercept this hate-filled rhetoric early, guiding young men towards healthier, pro-social, and adaptive pathways that create a safer world for all. And we do this with a true core belief that empathy is the only way forward. We use the same targeting techniques and engagement tools that the other side uses, connecting and enticing based off their needs, especially around the idea of connection. We do this by creating an ecosystem of partners. So we work with men's wellness organizations across the country in community gathering support, mental health support, and also positive content creation. And together with our partners, we think about tackling 3 large challenges in this space. The first, the challenge of social isolation and loneliness. Just one stat that always sticks with me is 1 in 4 men in the US say they have no close friends. Economic and educational challenges, so the frustrations that men feel today about maybe feeling left out of the economy or left out of the progress in our world. And then lastly, the impact of the attention economy. They're fed content that feels helpful, it feels productive, they feel like they're being seen, and it's very appealing. It's often funny and enticing. And while all of that can be true, there's a certain tipping point with a lot of this content then going too far. So we've had some initial success with some of our campaigns of actually matching men with some of our partners, and we're hoping to continue that work moving forward.
Awesome, thank you. Now, Alexander, over to you.
Yes, thank you so much. I'm also very grateful and thrilled to be here the first time for me at the Eradicate Hate Summit. I'm, as you also introduced me, Alexander Sievers from Violence Prevention Network in Berlin, Germany. I am a senior practitioner in PCVE, anti-violence and de-radicalization work for over 7 years in the right-wing department of Violence Prevention Network in Berlin. We implement these trainings for young and adult people and advising people also in institutions of relevant topics. And VPN, Violence Prevention Network, is the leading German NGO with over 20 years of experience of preventing and combating extremism. We have worked with over 3,000 individual cases of violent extremism in the departments of right-wing, Islamistic, and other forms of violent extremism. Beside that, we did found 2 months ago the INDEX, International Network for Disengagement and Exit, after some thinking how we can professionalize and put the needs of globally working practitioners in that field together to strengthen their voice, and also finding a network where they can find knowledge skills and also can educate themselves on all the topics which we have to combat globally.
Awesome. Thank you so much. And Dr. Shannon Poe, over to you.
Thank you. I'm also very excited to be here as it's my first time. I'm Shannon Poe, the Director of Exit Programming and Services at Life After Hate. We're a tertiary provider providing services to exiting individuals from violent far-right groups, so individuals who have identified as someone who would like to leave. And oftentimes people believe that once someone is in, there's no hope and they are lost, but we provide compassion with accountability to these individuals to help them get out. We do this through multidisciplinary teamwork. So we have case managers who are trained social workers who work with them, and also exit specialists who are our formers who have once been involved in groups themselves, have gotten out, and now provide the hope to the individuals who are leaving themselves. In addition, we work with some family members and friends of individuals who are in those groups to help them set boundaries, how to talk to their loved ones, and really how to walk alongside them to find hope in this process of leaving as well.
Awesome. Thank you. So you can see this really runs the spectrum of primary, secondary, tertiary prevention, helping people who are at risk, helping their family members. So what we want to do next is dive into some success stories of what this actually looks like in practice, because helping people to help themselves is a very complex multifaceted endeavor. So I'd love for each of you to just share a story of an anonymous case of a time when you all were able to reach someone seeking help, whether that was an at-risk individual or one of their family members or friends. So how did you reach them? And then also, next, how did you persuade them to take the next step and actually seek care? Because it's one thing to reach a target audience, but then the next step is what do they do with the information? So Shannon, let's start with you.
Sure. The individual I'd like to share this morning is a family and friends participant. I chose this particular participant because it does connect back to her daughter. So she's been working with Life After Hate for a little over 2 years now. So this highlights the length of time that it can sometimes take to work with an individual. For us, it's typically about 18 to 24 months. She initially came to Life After Hate in support for her adult child, who had become involved with a young man who was engaged in a violent far-right group, and then she herself become engaged in that group. Her mom was terrified for her daughter. She was hesitant to work with us as well. We offered her case management services, as well as to be able to participate in our friends and family group. Our participant was not initially able to participate in the group, but she would connect with our case manager on a weekly basis. So our case manager brought the information from our group to her in that one-on-one session. So learning how to set boundaries, maintain stress management systems. The participant identified that really the relationship that she had with her daughter was taking a toll on her physical health. So how to set up doctor's appointments for herself and manage her health. How to interact with the daughter. She had a lot of internalized shame and guilt. So how to face that and how to work through that. So eventually, she was able to begin to repair the relationship with her daughter. Then her other daughter came to her program as well and to participate. So they began to repair and heal the relationship as a whole. She then cut down from weekly sessions to bi-weekly. And recently, almost 2 years later, she has reported the relationship with her daughter is healed. The daughter has left the group that she is in. She has left the young man that she was dating as well. She has a job. She's completed a workforce development program. She has a child. And they have begun to repair and heal those relationships. So it's a long, grueling process, 2 years. They're still working on it. But we went from meeting weekly to now monthly, and she soon will graduate from our program. So.
And that really speaks to the importance of this long-term care, right? Once you reach the person, then you have to keep reaching out over and over and providing them with those services on that journey. Alexander, can you tell us about a success story, an anonymous case of a time that the Violence Prevention Network helped somebody to help themselves?
Of course. It's a quite recent story. It is about a 39-year-old man who is radicalized or did radicalized during the pandemic. During that time, he lost his job, his relationship, and before losing his relationship, he became a father. Due to that, the split up of the relationship, he also wasn't able to see his son anymore. Then he became depressive, started to abuse substances, and started to play on his own all day long video games. Due to that, he came in contact in the online community with right-wing ideologies and also started to be just communicating all day long within his bubble. He started to build also a right-wing online network, blackmailed politicians and other people working in the democratic field, and in the end uploaded video with fake weapons where he played to harm people he blackmailed. As he started to be more and more active, security services started to observe him, and they thought that he could be likely someone threatening public safety. So the police did an intervention and visited him at home and told him that he should contact us to get help. Due to the pressure of the police and also being more and more alone, he said yes to a first counseling. So we met him, and after the first meeting, he agreed to work with us. he said in the beginning that actually he doesn't want to feel that bad anymore as he was feeling all the time during that period. After some time, he was able to stopping using drugs, started also therapy, and distanced himself more and more from the ideologies of the far right. After being sober and also starting work again, he became also more self-confident, what also brought him back kind of in contact with his ex-girlfriend, what ended up that he was able to see his son again. After seeing his son again, he became more and more happy, and he literally said that I almost got my life back before the pandemic and also before he radicalized. I think that case shows very good how it is possible to reach people, and that interaction or intervention is always possible. And also for us, how important it is to have a network of multi-agency network to reach people and to seek help for them.
Absolutely. Caitlin, over to you.
I feel like these silver linings are like why we all do this work, right? Very inspiring stories. So at Diverting the Hate, we use metadata to find our audience. So keywords, certain accounts, certain influencers that are known to have misogynistic rhetoric and to be highly male supremacist. And we use that data to surface a new message in those spaces. And the messages that we try to use, we don't want to feel like they're super far off from maybe something they're already engaging with. Something around finding purpose or meaning, or having male friendship, or what it means to be a man. Using language that feels like it might actually be something in their feed is how we deliver that message. And when we think about success, we're thinking about it in two categories. The online to completely offline, actually moving someone offline. And then also thinking about it from one space online to moving that audience to a different space online. So with that first bucket, we've seen really great success with a couple of our partners that have what we call shoulder-to-shoulder activities and are hyper-localized. So we were able to sign up about 30 men against two of our partners for their offerings, one in the Bay Area, which is a small volunteer-run group that goes camping together, hiking together, and another out of Denver that they go fly fishing together. And they actually bring them on retreats with trained counselors, and if they're ready and wanting, can start to get into therapy from there. So we saw really great success with those hyper-localized approaches. And then from the online to online approach, we worked with American University's Peril Lab on identifying highly male supremacist channels on YouTube and ran content on behalf of our partners at Man Enough, which is a podcast where men have conversations about issues men are facing. And we found that a topical approach actually really helped to drive this audience away from these male supremacist channels to our partner when we're speaking about something that they're already interested in. So we were testing the idea of dating. And what we were able to see with that test were view rates up to 60%, which is much higher than what you see across industry averages, which can kind of fall anywhere from 10 to 30%. Overall, what we're seeing is that this audience might be willing or unwillingly engaging with some of this manosphere or misogynistic content, but when served an alternative pathway, they want to take it. And that's what we're hoping to continue to build on.
Awesome. I'm hearing a theme of a lot of times what prompts people to actually seek help is they want to feel better, right? Like Alexander, you said the specific case you talked about, the person was like, I want to feel better, and you're saying the same thing, Caitlin. And so this desire, there has to be a bit of a desire there of wanting to change their life, but then we're planting the seeds with those messages. So I'd love to know a little bit more about what kind of knowledge do people need to know in order to actually take that next step? So is it some kind of training? Is it some kind of trust building? What is it that once you reach the people, what do they need to know in order to actually engage with these services? And so how does education and training kind of fit into this outreach? So Shannon, I'll start with you because I know your organization does some of this training. So if you could tell us a little bit more about how you kind of build up the capacity so people will take that next step.
Sure. So Life After Hate does two types of training. One, we provide training to mental health providers who may be interested in working with individuals who have identified as a violent extremist. We want to make sure that they have what they need and to be able to engage. I also provide a consultation group for them to be able to come back as they're working with individuals and they have questions. I don't want to leave them out there by themselves. The other thing that we have is a training for law enforcement and officers of the court. And this has been very beneficial because a lot of probation officers or a lot of judges or attorneys don't recognize that there's another option besides incarceration. Like, we don't have to lock people away if there's another pathway to rehabilitation. And we have multiple individuals who have been mandated to us and that are doing very well. But we have one that's about to leave our program very successfully. So if it's okay, I'd love to share his story. His name has been changed for this, but we're going to call him Bruce today. And he's been with us for 4 years. And the length of that time was determined by the court for us. He's received services from the exit team, so both case manager and exit specialist. And he came after he'd been involved in a criminal incident. The FBI raided his house, and he was charged with extremist activities. He was placed on house arrest and had a probation officer that both he checks in with and our team checks in with as well. And he was involved in an acceleration group. He was heavily connected to them, and that stemmed, according to him, from trauma that he experienced as a child. So we noticed that as we go back and say, people don't just wake up one day and say, I'm going to do this just for fun. There's always a why. There's a reason we come back to. So he had been struggling with substance use. He had conditions to not participate in this on his parole. We connected him with outside referral sources to help him with that. He happens to identify as a violent extremist, a white supremacist. He is not white, so not all white supremacists are white. I think that's important to identify as well. He struggled immensely with suicidal ideation. That has improved over the years with the help of our team and his mental health provider. He's limited to very strict conditions with his probation and parole. He is getting off of that here directly. He's apparently very good friends with his FBI agent that he works with. They've built a very strong relationship over the years through working with our team and him. And he's going to graduate from our program shortly. He does community service with us as well to meet the conditions of his parole, and his story is going to be released publicly this fall. So if law enforcement had not known about programs such as ours and theirs and many of yours here today, like, he would not have the opportunity that he has to rebuild his life. He would be behind bars. So I think it's important for people to know who we are and what we do, and to be able to connect, to give people that second chance, and to have hope that there is a future beyond the groups that they've been involved in.
Absolutely. So not only raising awareness for people at risk, but the entire ecosystem of people so they can refer those individuals to get that help that they need, which is what we're doing today. So you all are more aware of these incredible programs. Alexander, you guys do a little bit of training and outreach as well, right?
Exactly, and
Yeah.
I do have to just go ahead where just Shannon stopped, because it's exactly what we also do. Beside the trainings and counseling for radicalized people inside, outside of the prison, we also try to teach and educate people working with them, meaning mostly in the prison system. If you look on the ecosystem of a prison, we also just heard that, it's a very unique ecosystem, meaning that so many men living on a space where it is all about, of course, a certain kind of power system, and doing the all-day work, it's sometimes hard for the prison workers to realize or see what it means if somebody is radicalizing or starting to have concerning behavior. So what it is about the trainings we do is that we try to give these people working with so many people, inmates, to have the confidence and also recognizing this change in behaviors, meaning to be able also to seek for help to, on the one side, other professions in the prison system, but also to programs like us, where we can, on the one side, work with these individuals who work in the prison, but also, of course, with the ones who are at danger of radicalized or already inside of an ideology. Beside, we also try to reach teachers, social workers, and other people who working in sensitive areas where you can be confronted with the topics of radicalization and certain kind of ideologies.
Thank you so much. Caitlin, anything you want to add about training, education?
Yeah, we have kind of a unique approach with our partners. We've created a bit of a feedback loop where we share with our partners our research and what we're seeing online and how that's evolving, and then they share with us the needs of the members of their organization and how men are expressing what it is that they are coming to their organizations for. So then collaboratively we can adjust the messages we put out into the world together. I'll also note that we've started to collaborate with really innovative and inspiring organizations run by behavioral therapists who are going into schools and teaching young boys about gender, masculinity, and what they're seeing online. So our reports have been able to help these groups directly provide materials to teachers and parents to better inform them of this is what's in your son's feed. And we're hoping that that can also be another feedback loop where we can just be continuing to educate each other on what's happening online and what the conversations offline are looking like.
Fantastic. And if you haven't checked out Diverting Hate's resources, I love reading through all of the really fascinating research that you guys put out. It's really, really helpful. Well, today is, like I mentioned, all about providing concrete tools and strategies to you all in the audience, people listening on live stream. We really want you to be able to take away from these conversations something that you can do, a call to action. So what I want to ask our three panelists to talk about is what are some takeaways for our audience? What can our audience today do to support your efforts to empower people to help themselves? Any concrete strategies, resources they should check out that you haven't already mentioned? Just things to know. How can they help people help themselves? So I think I'll start, Caitlin, I'll start with you and we'll go this way.
Sure, yeah. So I guess what I will leave the audience with is the obvious of the internet is here to stay, and this younger generation is going to be more online than offline, and we need to be finding ways to amplify these other messages. These nefarious actors have figured out the capitalistic models of these algorithms very well, and it's going to take a movement to counter that, and we can very much be part of that movement. I would also say gender is extremely part of this equation, and resources and funding into boys and men's mental health is so necessary, and understanding the needs men and boys have for connection and belonging is so necessary. So I would leave the audience with empowering people in those spaces who are trying to lift up those voices for young men and boys, and to hear what young men and boys have to say about what it is they are struggling with today, and what they are experiencing on and offline, and how can we address that.
Alexander,
Yes.
what would you like to leave the audience with today? What are some takeaways?
I think the most important everybody has to know and also believe is that change is always possible. Meaning, for me, it doesn't, I think you can look on the one side on the online part, but also, of course, of the offline part. So in these times where we see a lot of people like drifting away from, let's say, the main society due to certain kind of beliefs or ideologies, it's sometimes hard to think that we can kind of bring them back. I do see in all the work we're doing with all the of my clients I've been working with that it's of course hard, it needs time, and resources and political, but also, of course, a will from society to be able to forgive and also to help people to change their life. If you do that approach, you have to know that, of course, you need to also seek help by yourself, meaning also that we, all of us, can't be in every field a professional, meaning it's okay to maybe don't know what to do in a certain point, but then reach out to someone else. Go and try, ask, I don't know, first a friend, a neighbor at work, another colleague, but ask. And then if you see certain kind of behavior which is concerning, you will be able also to find help on your own, and then you will find the right professional. Meaning, of course, if you have a very well-equipped multi-agency networks, it's easier to get that help immediately. But trust your own to also approach people who need help, and then I do believe it's possible to do that changes.
Amazing. Shannon, what do you want the audience to take away today of how they can help people to help themselves?
I think first and foremost, don't lose hope, right? I think, especially in this climate, it's very easy to say it's a lost cause. People are lost causes. They're not. I've seen the change very much, first and foremost. I did not have to dig for these stories. The conversations we had were which stories to share because they were plentiful. So have hope in people, have compassion for people that are going through this and are struggling. But I'll echo Alexander. If you know someone or if you're worried about someone, say something, reach out, ask for help. There is help available, so definitely seek it. And if you have the opportunity to attend a training, whether it's mental health or law enforcement or another type of training, definitely do it because it's beneficial, whether you work in the space or not.
No, I will selfishly take this opportunity to plug again. The Eradicate Hate has these resources as well as these 3 organizations and many others. If you're not sure, should you reach out for help? That's sometimes one of the biggest barriers, that people don't reach out because they're like, I don't know if this is serious enough that I should reach out for myself or for a friend. We have a lot of resources that talk about what are some of these behavioral indicators, what are some warning signs, when is it maybe time to have a conversation versus when is it time to actually seek professional help. So you can find these on Upend Hate, Screen Hate, you can find these on all of these organizations' websites. So definitely don't hesitate to utilize all the resources that are already there if you're at a critical decision point or if someone you know is struggling. Always better safe than sorry, but that's part of the awareness raising, is educating the general public on when is it time to seek help for yourself or for a loved one. I think we have time for one more quick question. So I want to look to the future now for your 3 organizations. Tell us, what's next for the work that you're doing? Are you looking to scale your efforts? Because many of these efforts are very high-touch models. You really have to work with individuals for several years. Do you scale that? How do you reach more people? Or do you continue to kind of dive deeper into the work that you're already doing? So Alexander, we'll start in the middle. We'll start with you.
Sure.
What's next?
What's next? As I also mentioned in the beginning, beside the work we're doing in Germany and also in Europe, also we did found Violence Prevention Network USA 2 years ago. So for us it's important to spread our idea of that it is able, what I just also said before, to work with individuals who are at great risk or already radicalized. And the next step is the Index International Network for Disengagement and Exit, because we do believe that due to the local and also global challenges, there is not yet one professional network for all the people who are doing that work. And it's more than important to do that right now, as we see these changes happen everywhere, to build a strong network where everybody who's working with this clientele is able to find knowledge sharing, skill exchange, but also collaboration and also searching in general for or solving problems. Because what I witness is that a lot of this work we do, there are a lot of questions from the main society behind it. Is it really possible? Can you really reach out to people? So it's important for us to know we can reach out to all the other ones which are doing that work, to feel that we're not alone out there, that there is globally other ones like us who do the same work, who challenge actually the same problems. So that is the next step we will do, and we're going.
We have at Eradicate Hate, we have the Prevention Practitioners Network, which is a network across the United States, but I know next steps are exploring how we build out this network internationally. We've already been speaking to colleagues in Germany and Canada. So that network is very much in the works because it is so important to support each other, both at the local level, national level, and international level in this work. So yeah, absolutely. Caitlin, what is next for Diverting Hate?
Well, we're certainly looking to scale. I think what's so exciting about our partnership model is the scalability behind it. For every one partner we have, there's 3 to 5 that they're connected with that want to be part of this mission with us. And we're also looking to see how can we better integrate with the platforms themselves and work together on solving this issue. And then we're really thinking about it from this public health perspective. So we're looking to collaborate with some of the giants in the men's mental health space, including Movember, Inequimundo, American Institute for Boys and Men, who are really trying to tackle this issue of online hate and how it's harmful to young men together. So we're looking forward to those partnerships, and also looking forward to working with folks that want to think about this from a creative and strategic point of view, because tech really needs the type of resources and funding that can be dynamic and responsive to this issue. So those are the types of collaborations that we're working on.
Awesome. Come find Caitlin at the coffee hour if you have any ideas for partnerships. And Shannon, finally over to you. What is next for Life After Hate?
Sure. We are currently expanding our relationships and partnerships with those within the judicial system to take on more mandated clients. We have a larger number coming to us that are frightened because they're being released soon, and they're afraid that they are either in danger or they're going to go back to their groups. So we want to provide a soft landing space for them to be able to help them as they transition home in the near future.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Any final words, anything that we haven't covered that you want the audience to know today?
No? I think all been said, and yes, I know, I think it's very important, as I said, that this is more than important, this summit, to really strengthen fighting hate in these times. So I think it's a great opportunity, and we should all connect together and strengthen all that we have.
That is what we're here to do. We want to convene everyone in one space one time a year so that we can make each other stronger and build out these networks so that we can actually help people to help themselves and get them the knowledge and the critical resources they need to prevent these attacks and acts of hate-based violence. So thank you so much to our 3 panelists up here for sharing their stories. I feel so inspired knowing that there's so many wonderful people like you 3 out here doing this really, really important work and helping people, because it's a big field, but it's a small field at the same time, right? There's only so many of us, and so the more that we can multiply our efforts, raise awareness with people so they themselves know when to seek help and know how to reach these resources that you all provide, the safer we're all going to be. So thank you all so much. Thank you to our audience for joining, and that concludes our panel.